Hello, everyone. My name is Allison John, and today I will discuss how motivation theories can be applied in meaningful ways at home and in the classroom. As a parent and high school biology teacher, I regularly encounter situations where children and students have the ability to succeed but lack the motivation to engage. Before taking this course, I often thought motivation was largely an internal characteristic that cannot be changed. However, I learned that motivation is influenced by expectations, beliefs, perceived value, feedback, and learning environments. A question that guided my thinking throughout this course was this: why do some children eagerly engage in activities while others resist them, even when the benefits seem obvious? Throughout the course, Psychology of Classroom Learning, I discovered that motivation can be intentionally developed. Today, I will share two projects completed during this course. The first involved reducing excessive screen time through expectancy value theory. The second involved increasing responsibility for chores, exercise, reading, and music practice through causal attribution theory. These projects changed the way I think about motivation both at home and in the classroom. The purpose of this presentation is to connect motivation theory with real world application. Educational theories become more meaningful when they are applied to authentic situations. The two projects I completed involved everyday challenges that many parents and educators experience during the summer. In both cases, children knew what they were supposed to do, but they lacked motivation to do it consistently. I will explain the motivation problem, describe the relevant theory, discuss the intervention that was implemented, analyze the results, and connect the lessons learned to my work as a high school biology teacher. I will also discuss practical motivation strategies and explain how these strategies can support multilingual learners, gifted students, and students with disabilities. The first project focused on excessive screen time during summer break, which I felt was a common issue for parents with children at home during the summer. A teacher friend and I observed that our children were wanting to spend most of their day using electronic devices, including tablets, video games, and television. While these activities provided entertainment, they often reduced opportunities for reading, physical activity, social interaction, creativity, and family engagement. Several attempts had already been made to address the problem. Screen time limits were given and alternative activities were suggested. However, the children usually just wanted to return to their devices as quickly as possible. These efforts focused mainly on restricting undesirable behavior rather than increasing motivation for desirable behaviors. To address the problem, I applied expectancy value theory developed by Wigfield and Eccles. According to the theory, individuals' choice, persistence, and performance can be explained by their beliefs about how well they will do on the activity and the extent to which they value the activity. This means that individuals must believe they can successfully complete any task. They also must perceive the task as valuable to them. If either factor is missing, motivation decreases. The theory also identifies several forms of value. Intrinsic value refers to enjoyment. Utility value refers to usefulness. Attainment value reflects personal importance. Cost refers to the time, effort, and sacrifices required. Learners are more likely to engage in a task when they perceive high value and believe success is attainable. Using this theory, I designed a structured summer schedule intended to increase both expectancy for success and task value. The schedule included 30 minutes of physical activity, 30 minutes of arts and crafts, 30 minutes of reading, games with siblings, chores, music practice, and family interaction. Rather than assigning activities, I provided meaningful choices. Children selected physical activities such as walking, jogging, swimming, scooter riding, or jump rope. They chose arts and crafts activities such as coloring, painting, or construction paper projects. They selected their own books for reading and chose board games and card games they enjoyed. These choices increased expectancy because the activities were familiar, age appropriate, and achievable. They also increased intrinsic value because children had ownership of the experience. To build utility value, I explained the purpose behind each activity. Reading supports academic success. Exercise contributes to their health and overall wellness. Games help develop social and problem solving skills. Creative projects encourage imagination and perseverance. An additional incentive was included. Children earned 5 minutes of screen time for each completed activity and could use the accumulated time at the end of each day. Expectations were posted visibly and reviewed each morning. After approximately 2 weeks, we began to see some positive changes. Children spent less time on electronic devices and more time participating in physical activity, reading, creativity, and family interaction. Arguments about screen time decreased because expectations were clear and consistent. Most importantly, the children became more willing participants because they saw both the value of the activities and their ability to succeed. The second project focused on responsibility and persistence. Children were expected to clean bedrooms, feed pets, water plants, take out trash, complete 30 minutes of exercise, read for 20 minutes, and practice musical instruments for 15 minutes daily. These responsibilities frequently resulted in complaints, procrastination, and conflict. Although reminders, rewards, and consequences were used, improvements were often temporary. Children commonly attributed failure to external circumstances. They reported being too busy, too tired, or indicated that tasks were difficult or boring. They rarely recognized the role that effort, planning, or persistence played in successful completion. To address this challenge, I applied the causal attribution theory. This theory suggests that people explain success and failure through causes such as ability, effort, luck, and task difficulty. These explanations influence future motivation. Attributions can be categorized according to whether they are internal or external, stable or unstable, and controllable or uncontrollable. According to Perry and Ham, if failure occurs when it is caused by something stable like low effort, individuals feel more hopeful because the amount of effort can be changed. Individuals who attribute success to controllable factors such as high effort tend to remain motivated because they believe future outcomes can be influenced. Those who attribute outcomes to luck or uncontrollable circumstances are often less motivated. To apply the theory, I shifted my focus from outcomes to explanations. Rather than simply rewarding completed tasks, I emphasized the connection between effort and success. Children received checklists containing daily expectations for chores, exercise, reading, and music practice. Each evening, we reviewed completion of activities and discussed what contributed to success or difficulty. My feedback intentionally highlighted controllable behaviors. Instead of saying, "Good job," I said things like, "You finished your reading because you stayed focused," or "You improved your instrument because you practice consistently." If responsibilities were incomplete, conversations focused on problem solving rather than blame. Children were encouraged to reflect on their actions, identify successful strategies, and consider how they could improve the following day. The goal was to help them understand that effort, organization, persistence, and time management influence outcomes. The results were encouraging. Over time, children needed fewer reminders and became more independent. Reading became more consistent, exercise improved, and willingness to practice instruments increased. Family conflict decreased, and the children demonstrated greater confidence and pride in their accomplishments. Perhaps most importantly, they began recognizing the connection between effort and achievement rather than blaming external circumstances. These projects highlighted four practical strategies for increasing motivation. First, provide meaningful choices. Choice promotes autonomy and ownership. Whether selecting books, projects, or activities, learners are more engaged when they have input. Second, increase task value. Students and children need to understand why a task matters. Motivation increases when learning is connected to personal interests, future goals, and real world relevance. Third, focus feedback on effort, persistence, and strategy use. Feedback that emphasizes controllable factors encourages resilience and growth. Fourth, establish consistent routines and expectations. Predictability reduces uncertainty and helps learners develop productive habits. Together, these strategies create environments where individuals feel capable, valued, and responsible for their success. The lessons learned from these projects directly apply to my work as a high school biology teacher. Biology contains complex concepts, scientific vocabulary, lab procedures, and analytical thinking skills. Student motivation plays a critical role in their success. For multilingual learners, expectancy can be strengthened through visual supports, vocabulary strategies, diagrams, translated resources when appropriate, and collaborative learning opportunities. These strategies help students feel capable and confident. For gifted students, task value can be increased through inquiry based learning, advanced research projects, choice boards, and opportunities to explore scientific topics in greater depth. Challenge often plays an important role in maintaining motivation for advanced learners. For students with disabilities, motivation improves when instruction is differentiated and support is individualized. Tasks can be broken into smaller steps, accommodations can be provided, and multiple methods of demonstrating learning can be offered. As a biology teacher, I also strive to connect scientific concepts to authentic situations. Topics such as genetics, human impact on the ecosystem, nutrition, exercise, and cellular respiration, disease prevention, and biotechnology allow students to see how biology really connects to their lives and even their future careers. When students understand relevance and believe they can succeed, motivation increases significantly. This course transformed my understanding of motivation. Before studying these theories, I often interpreted motivation as a characteristics that students either had or didn't have. Through these projects, I realized that motivation is strongly influenced by environmental conditions and adult interactions. I learned that simply telling children or students what to do is rarely enough. Motivation grows when expectations are clear, tasks are meaningful, success feels attainable, and feedback promotes productive beliefs. I also learned that language matters. Small differences in feedback can influence how learners interpret success and failure. These experiences reminded me that parents and teachers play an important role in shaping motivation. We influence how learners view challenges, interpret setbacks, and define success. As a result, I am now more intentional about fostering autonomy, emphasizing effort, and creating opportunities for meaningful success. In conclusion, both projects demonstrated that motivation can be intentionally developed. Expectancy value theory helped address excessive screen time by increasing both perceived value and expectations for success. Causal attribution theory increased responsibility and persistence by helping children recognize the connection between effort and outcomes. For parents and educators, the implications are clear. Provide meaningful choices, explain why tasks are valuable, focus feedback on effort and strategy, establish consistent routines, and support learners as they develop confidence and independence. Ultimately, motivation flourishes when individuals believe three things: I can do this. This matters. My actions influence the outcome. Those beliefs create the foundation for engagement, perseverance, and lifelong learning. Thank you for listening to my presentation.